In a world where betrayal often hides behind wealth and polished smiles, sometimes it takes the courage of an ordinary parent to bring the truth into the light. This is the story of David Miller, a single dad doing everything he can to raise his little girl after tragedy stole their home's laughter. One stormy night in the woods, a cry for help shattered the silence, and what David found buried in the mud would drag him into a deadly conspiracy. A powerful woman on the edge of death, a whispered warning, "Don't let them find me," and a secret worth killing for. Stay with us, because this is not just a rescue. It is a fight for justice, a battle for survival, and the rebirth of a family forged through love, courage, and second chances. The forest road was slick with rain, the headlights of David Miller's pickup slicing through sheets of mist that clung stubbornly to the trees. He tightened his grip on the steering wheel, silently urging the old truck to keep moving. Beside him, Lily sat with her stuffed rabbit tucked beneath her chin, humming softly to distract herself from the groan of the engine. At only 8 years old, she carried the resilience of someone who had already endured too much. Her mother's passing 2 years earlier had left a hollow silence in their small cabin, one David tried to fill with bedtime stories, camping trips, and every ounce of love he could muster. But still, in the quiet hours, he feared it wasn't enough. Tonight, he had hoped their weekend camping trip would bring them closer, a chance to laugh and forget the heaviness that often hung over their days. Yet as the truck coughed, sputtered, and finally died on a narrow dirt path deep in the woods, David felt the weight of disappointment settle again. He pulled over, muttered under his breath, and stepped out into the damp night air to check under the hood. The forest pressed in around them, alive with the sound of dripping leaves and distant thunder. Then he heard it, a faint, strangled cry. He froze, every muscle tense. At first, he thought it was the wind, but then it came again, hoarse and desperate. "Daddy?" Lily's voice wavered from the cab. "Did you hear that?" David's instincts sharpened. "Stay in the truck, sweetheart." "Lock the doors." She obeyed, eyes wide as she clicked the lock down. David grabbed his flashlight and crowbar, following the sound through tangled underbrush. The beam swept across trees until it caught on twisted metal, gleaming half buried in the mud. A black luxury sedan lay tilted on its side, one half swallowed by a recent landslide. The windshield was shattered, glass like ice scattered across wet leaves. The earth around it seemed intent on reclaiming it, pressing the car deeper into the ground. David's chest tightened as he scrambled closer, his boots sliding on the slick slope. Inside, a woman was slumped against the steering wheel, her hair matted with blood, her lips moving weakly. He yanked at the door handle, but it was jammed tight. The car creaked under the pressure of the soil, threatening to collapse further. Adrenaline surged. He jammed the crowbar into the frame, gritting his teeth until metal groaned and finally gave. "Hang on!" he shouted. He pried the door open, unfastened the seatbelt digging into her chest, and pulled her free. She was frighteningly light, her body trembling as though she'd been holding on far too long. Mud streaked her once elegant clothes, the glint of a diamond bracelet dulled by dirt and blood. As he carried her away from the wreckage, her eyes fluttered open, just enough to focus on him. Her voice was barely a whisper, her breath ragged against his ear. "Don't let them find me." David stumbled for a step, chilled by the words. This wasn't the cry of a simple accident victim. There was fear here, deep and raw, the kind that spoke of shadows beyond the crash. Mud streaked her once elegant clothes, the glint of a diamond bracelet dulled by dirt and blood. As he carried her away from the wreckage, her eyes fluttered open, just enough to focus on him. Her voice was barely a whisper, her breath ragged against his ear. "Don't let them find me." David stumbled for a step, chilled by the words. This wasn't the cry of a simple accident victim. There was fear here, deep and raw, the kind that spoke of shadows beyond the crash. The rain had eased, but the weight of her words pressed harder than any storm. As the woman stirred once more, her lips moved again, barely audible. "Don't trust them." David's hands tightened on the wheel, his jaw set. He didn't know who she was or what nightmare she carried with her, but one thing was certain. This night had changed everything. The storm had quieted to a steady drizzle, the cabin walls creaking softly as wind slipped through the trees outside. Inside, the fire David built burned bright, casting long shadows across the wooden walls. Clara lay stretched on the couch, pale but conscious now, her eyes darting across the unfamiliar space. The worn curtains, the patched furniture, and the smell of pine and wood smoke were a far cry from the life she had known. She tried to sit up, wincing, but David gently pressed her shoulder back. "Easy, you've been through hell. Rest." His voice was steady, but his jaw was tight. He couldn't shake her earlier words. "Don't let them find me." Who were they? Clara scanned the room as though memorizing exits, her gaze sharp, guarded. "Did you call anyone?" she asked suddenly, her voice cutting through the silence. "The police?" David hesitated. "No, you begged me not to. And after seeing the fear in your eyes, I figured you had a reason." For a moment relief flickered across her face, then hardened back into suspicion. "You don't understand. If they think I survived, they'll come. They'll finish what they started." David frowned. "Who's after you?" "I need to know if I've put my daughter in danger." His tone carried a quiet steel that made her pause. Clara's eyes softened slightly as they drifted to Lily, who sat cross-legged on the rug, drawing with crayons. The little girl glanced up, smiled shyly, and held out a picture: 3 figures under a bright yellow sun, a small cabin behind them. Clara took it in her trembling hands. Something broke inside her as she traced the uneven lines. "Is this your family?" "It's me, Daddy and Mommy," Lily said softly. "She's in heaven now. But Daddy says she's still with us." Clara's lips parted, her voice faltering. "She was your wife?" David nodded. "Cancer. It was quick, too quick. I do what I can, but..." His eyes lingered on Lily. "It's hard not to feel like I'm failing her." Clara swallowed hard, blinking back tears. "You're not failing her," she whispered, surprising herself. The words carried the weight of her own loss. Later, when Lily had gone to bed, Clara sat by the fire with David. The cabin was quiet except for the pop of the flames. She reached into the torn lining of her coat and pulled out a worn leather wallet. From it, she slid a photograph across the table. A little girl with curly hair and bright eyes beamed at the camera. "My daughter," Clara said, her voice breaking. "She died when she was 6. David's chest tightened. He picked up the photo gently, the ache in her voice echoing the hollow space in his own heart. "I'm sorry," he said simply, because there were no better words. Clara stared into the flames, her mask slipping. "I built everything after that company's wealth, walls so high no one could touch me. But grief doesn't care about walls. It just waits. And when I thought I'd learned to live with it, betrayal came knocking." She looked at him then, her eyes filled with both anger and fear. "The accident, it wasn't an accident. People I trusted, partners, friends, they want me gone. They want what I built, and if I stand in their way, they'll bury me, literally." David absorbed her words, the puzzle pieces clicking into place. The fear in her whispers, the urgency in her eyes, it was no delirium. "Do you have proof?" She hesitated, then pulled a small flash drive from a hidden pocket in the wallet. "Enough to ruin them. Enough to put me in the ground if they find out I still have it." She clenched it in her fist. "That's why I can't go to the police. I don't know who's on their payroll." David leaned back, exhaling slowly. He wasn't a man of power or influence. He had no stake in corporate wars. But he knew what it meant to protect what mattered. His gaze shifted to Lily's bedroom door, then back to Clara. "You're safe here tonight. I don't have much, but what I do have I'll use to keep you alive. That's my promise." Clara studied him, searching for hesitation, for any sign of weakness. but his steady eyes held only conviction. Her shoulders sagged, as if for the first time in years she could let herself lean on someone. She tucked the flash drive back into her coat and whispered, "Then maybe I've finally found someone I can trust." The following days felt like stolen time. Clara remained in the cabin, her body slowly recovering but her mind constantly racing. David noticed the way her gaze lingered at the windows, always half expecting shadows to emerge from the trees. He did his best to keep life normal for Lily, cooking simple meals, chopping wood, telling bedtime stories, but he could feel the tension creeping in like fog. It wasn't long before their fears proved right. One evening, as twilight bled into night, the low hum of an engine reached their ears. David peered through the blinds and saw a black SUV idling at the edge of the dirt road, its tinted windows reflecting the fading light. His stomach dropped. "They found you," he muttered. Clara's face drained of color. "If they know I'm alive, they won't stop." David wasted no time. He led Clara and Lily down into the small cellar beneath the cabin, pressing a lantern into Clara's hands. "Stay quiet, no matter what." Then he returned upstairs, shotgun in hand, not to fight, but to stand guard. Heavy boots crunched outside. A man's voice called out, sharp and commanding, "Anderson, we know you're in there. Come out, and maybe you'll walk away." David's grip tightened. "This is private property," he shouted back. "Leave now." The men rattled the door, cursed, then retreated into the night, but David knew it was only a test. The real strike would come soon. After the danger passed, Clara looked at him with new resolve. "I can't keep running," she whispered. "If I vanish, they win. If I fight, I take back everything they stole." David studied her, the firelight reflecting determination in her eyes. He saw not just fear but courage raw, sharpened by grief. "Then we fight smart," he said. They devised a plan. Clara would contact an investigative journalist she trusted, arranging to reveal the truth at an upcoming gala hosted by her company. The very stage her betrayers thought they owned would become their undoing. David agreed to escort her, knowing it could put him directly in the line of fire. "You don't owe me this," she told him one night as Lily slept. David shook his head. "I do, because you trusted me with your life. And because Lily's watching. She needs to see what it means to stand up for what's right." The night of the gala arrived. Clara, dressed in a simple black dress borrowed from a friend, walked into the glittering hall at David's side. Crystal chandeliers sparkled overhead, but beneath the glamour lay rot. Her former partners, polished and smiling, worked the room with confidence, certain their secret was buried with her. As the evening unfolded, a hush fell over the crowd when the host announced, "Ladies and gentlemen, we invite you to watch a tribute to the late Clara Anderson." The screen flickered to life only to show Clara herself, stepping onto the stage. Gasps erupted. Cameras flashed. "I am not dead," she declared, her voice steady. "But I was meant to be. By the very people who stand before you now." Murmurs rippled through the audience. Clara held up documents, emails, bank records, all evidence of fraud and conspiracy. Then came the recordings David had helped her recover. Voices of her partners plotting to erase her, signatures forged after her supposed death. The room turned cold. Reporters scrambled, police entered with warrants in hand, and the once powerful betrayers found themselves cornered. Clara's eyes swept the crowd, then found David standing near the back with Lily holding his hand. Her voice softened. "I survived because a single father with nothing but love for his daughter chose to save a stranger in the dark. That love gave me the strength to fight back. And now I choose to build something better with it." Applause thundered as the officers led the guilty away. Justice had been served. Weeks later, the cabin was alive with warmth. Clara had founded a trust to support single fathers and children without families, naming David as its first advisor. Yet it was not the foundation that mattered most, but the rhythm of daily life they built together, meals shared at the table, Lily teaching Clara how to braid hair. Clara reading bedtime stories with David's steady voice beside hers. One evening, as snow began to fall outside, David sat by the fire with Clara and Lily curled close. For the first time in years, his heart felt whole. The woman he had pulled from the wreckage was no longer just a stranger or a survivor. She was family. And the whisper that had begun as a plea for safety had become a vow for a future, trust, love, and second chances. Sometimes the greatest victories are not found in courtrooms or headlines, but in the quiet glow of a cabin where love has returned. David saved Clara's life, but in truth, it was his love for Lily, his steady, unshakable devotion, that saved them all. Clara discovered that no fortune or power could compare to the warmth of family, and together they built something betrayal could never destroy: trust, healing, and a new beginning. Their story reminds us that even in the darkest woods, a single act of courage can spark a lifetime of hope. If this tale touched your heart, share it with someone who believes in second chances. Leave your thoughts in the comments. And subscribe for more soul-stirring tales that celebrate love, resilience, and the power of family.